Welcome to the Wright Science Daily Revision Boost. First of all, congratulations go to our top 3 scorers from our quiz on day 10, which were Ravina, Molly and Aoife. Well done. And we also have a special commendation today for Aaliyah, who just had utter persistence to get them all right, and I think has taken that test more times than anyone else on a single day. The daily formula for today is that for charge flow. So charge flow measured in coulombs is the current in amps times the time in seconds. In today's Biology Blast, we're going to have a look at plant transport systems. So the first one of these is the xylem tissue. So xylem transports water and mineral ions. So don't forget, good old alphabet here, WXY, water in xylem. And it's going to take those from the roots to the leaves. Water enters the roots by osmosis and the mineral ions are taken up by active transport. The xylem tissue itself is made of dead cells because they've become thickened by lignin, so they no longer are living, and they've lost their end walls between the cells. Second type of tissue involved in transport is the phloem tissue. Now phloem transports the dissolved sugars that are made in photosynthesis, which hopefully we remember is 6CO2 plus 6H2O makes C6H12O6 plus 6O2. When we're talking about the movement of sugars, then that's a process called translocation. The sugars are taken to 2 key areas, the roots for storage and the meristem cells where they're used to make new cells. Few key facts about our phloem: it's made from living cells. The end walls have become sieve plates and sugars are able to pass through those sieve plates, which is very important for obviously their function. Transpiration is the loss of water vapour from the aerial parts of a plant or the leaves, and the transpiration stream is the movement of water from the roots through the xylem and out of the leaves. Now the whole process there involves the water entering via the root hair cells, then travelling through the xylem up the plant, and then being lost through the stomata of the leaves due to it moving down a concentration gradient. And remember, the stomata are controlled as to whether they're open or closed by the guard cells. We've got 4 factors that will affect the rate of transpiration: temperature, wind speed, light intensity and humidity. Temperature is our first one, and as we increase the temperature we increase the rate of transpiration because evaporation happens faster. With the wind speed, increasing wind speed increases the rate of transpiration because those water molecules are being moved away from the surface of the plant and therefore maintaining that concentration gradient. With the light intensity, when light shines on a plant the stomata are open and therefore increasing light intensity increases the rate of transpiration up until all stomata are open. And then humidity, as the humidity increases, the rate of transpiration decreases because we see that drop in the concentration gradient. Quick reminder of our daily formula: charge flow in coulombs is the current in amps times the time in seconds. In today's chemistry check, we're going to have a look at the first part of C1, looking at the whole idea of the particle model. So the first thing, we need to know how to draw the diagram of the particles in solids, liquids and gases, which is shown to you there. And we need to remember the arrangement, the relative distances and the main movement of our particles. So solids are regular arrangement, very close together and vibrate around fixed positions. The liquids are random, close together and move around each other. And the gas is random, far apart and move quickly in all directions. We use the particle model to explain certain properties of a substance. So we can compress a gas because there's space between the particles, but we can't compress solids or liquids as there's no space between them. We know solids can't flow because the particles are in fixed positions and therefore they're only vibrating around a fixed point. When we consider physical changes, these are changes in the state of matter, so things like ice melting or dissolving. These tend to be reversible and no new substance is made. We also have a chemical change, which is a change that produces one or more new substances, and these tend to be irreversible, and the properties of our product are often very different to that of the reactants. If we're asked to calculate the ratio of distance to diameter for atoms, all you do is the distance between the atoms divided by the diameter of the atom from the question. We do need to remember that when we're talking about particles, they're held together by electrostatic forces of attraction, and those occur between positive and negative charges. When the particles are further apart, then we have weaker forces. A few things to bear in mind about our particle model in terms of the limitations. It doesn't take into account the forces between the particles, the size of the particles, or the space between the particles. Just a quick reminder of our daily formula of today. The charge flow in coulombs is the current in amps times the time in seconds. In today's physics prep, we're going to go over the model of the atom. So the first scientist that came up with this theory that we need to know about is John Dalton. He carried out experiments to see how the elements combine, and his model was that atoms are small indestructible spheres. So he thought all atoms in an element are the same, and atoms in one element are different from atoms in other elements. Our second scientist is J.J. Thomson, and he investigated cathode rays which were given out by hot metals. He discovered those cathode rays are made from electrons and worked out that those electrons are negative. So he came up with the plum pudding model, which is the fact that we've got these negative electrons in a positive cloud. Our third scientist is Rutherford, who worked along with Geiger and Marsden, and he discovered that some materials emit positively charged alpha particles. He fired those alpha particles at very thin pieces of gold foil and found that his results couldn't be explained by the plum pudding model. So he suggested that atoms are made of a tiny positive nucleus surrounded by electrons, and that the nucleus has most of the mass of the atom. The last scientist we need to know about is Bohr, and he suggested that electrons only moved in fixed orbits called electron shells. We do need to remember a couple of key sizes, that an atom is about 1 × 10⁻10 meters in diameter, and the radius of the nucleus is 1 × 10⁻15 meters. Final reminder then of our daily formula. The charge flow in coulombs is the current in amps times the time in seconds. Now we've had a quick recap, then head on over to socrative.com and test your knowledge on the topics from today. The room name you need to enter is Wright 2662. Good luck! As always, if there's any topics that we've gone through in today's Daily Booster that you're not sure of, then head on over to the playlist to watch the videos in more detail. So for biology, it's the B2 playlist, for chemistry, it's the C1 playlist, and for physics, it's the P1 playlist.